What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday to you all. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk Studios this morning. A big thanks for making us a part of your start on this Tuesday morning, whether you're listening on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available to stream online at sportstalk1051.com. Download the app, take it on the go. You got your devices. Video streams also up and rolling. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram this morning. What do we have on our game plan for us on this Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday? Crew picking up game one of this big three-game series against the Cubbies last night. It looked maybe it was going to be a little sketchy there at the beginning with the Cubs putting up 3 runs, attacking Jacob Mizorowski early on, but the Miz settling down nicely, and the Brewers' offense able to take back the lead by putting up 4 runs in the bottom of the third and not looking back, adding home runs from Christian Yelich, which was his 20th of the season. Another home run from Sal Frelick. Andrew Vaughn continues his nice run with the Brewers here. He also picked up a home run. So ultimately, the Brewers picking up a game one victory, 8-4. Nick Mears getting credited with the win last night. But after throwing boatload, 40 pitches first inning, Mizorowski settling down, going 4 innings, 3 hits, a couple earned runs, and striking out 7. Christian Yelich, even after the game, saying he told Mizorowski that was his most impressive start, or I should say, his favorite start of the season from the Miz, because when things weren't going good and starting off pretty poorly, kid didn't rattle. He settled down nicely, got back into his groove, and finished it off nicely. And a tip of the cap and a credit to that Brewers offense too. I mean, that to me, that I agree with Yelich and the aspect that, it was good to see Mizorowski, who got off to a slow start, dug himself in a hole, dug his team into a hole, but he bounced back nicely, was able to kind of forget about it and kind of check in and have himself a nice game, but also the offense too. I mean, how many times over the years have we felt like, oh boy, you're down 3-0 right away in the first, and just didn't really have a whole lot of confidence in the Brewers to be able to come out of that, and they did that by putting up 4 in the bottom of the third and then adding some insurance runs via the home run ball. 10 total hits for the Brewers last night. The team only struck out 3 times total, compared to the Cubs, who had 6 hits and struck out 14 times last night. So, uh, Cheerio and uh, Durbin and Ortiz, the only ones to not collect a hit in yesterday's game. But you had Frelick with a couple with that home run, Contreras also adding a couple, Yelich with a couple, Collins with big at bats in that third inning run. For him, he added a couple of hits too. So plenty to talk about with this game from last night and looking ahead to game 2 tonight, where Quinn Priester is going to be looking for his 10th win of the season, going up against former Brewer Colin Ray. And before the game, the Brewers acquiring a new catcher, backup catcher, not replacing Contreras, but Danny Jensen coming over from the Tampa Bay Rays. Actually, went to high school in Appleton, so a little bit of a local person coming back here. But Danny Jansen bringing his 11 home runs and his 703 OPS over to the Brewers. The Brewers designating for assignment Eric Haas. So Pat Murphy yesterday after the game saying Contreras is still going to be getting his ABs and such, and really no plans to IL him or sit him down or anything like this. But just maybe kind of seems like the Brewers wanted a little bit more production from the catching spot, backup catching spot. But I also feel like you don't make this move without the plan of starting Jansen every once in a while, or at least starting him more often than they did with Eric Haas. So, I mean, what Jansen brings, he's got more home runs than Contreras. He's got a better OPS. The Contreras this year is only hitting 204. Contreras has the advantage in the average department, batting average department. But I feel like you don't make a move like this without the plan or the idea of maybe giving him some starts, every 4 times, every 5 times the rotation. Sometimes every pitcher's matched up with a certain catcher and such. Don't know if that's kind of the idea here, but, I would imagine he's probably gonna be getting more ABs, more games than what, Eric Haas was getting for the Crew. So, with the trade deadline quickly approaching, fast approaching here, I think, there's a lot of Brewers fans that are hoping that this isn't the only move, that this isn't, the lone move from the Brewers during this, final week where they can make trades, final couple days here, but I guess that, remains to be seen here, at this point. So, but we know other teams have been making moves. Yankees getting some moves acquiring McMahon from the Rockies. So you'd think that kind of takes them out of the Suarez sweepstakes. Suarez getting hit by a pitch last night, but X-rays were negative. So maybe a sigh of relief for both the Diamondbacks and teams who are interested in acquiring his services. So, but we'll see, and in the coming days whether the Brewers will make that move or not, make another move or not. So, plenty of baseball talk coming at you this morning throughout this morning here. Speaking of baseball, we'll catch up with our friends from the Eau Claire Express. The Express currently in second place in their division, still chasing the Duluth Huskies here, but the regular season fast coming to an end here. When you look at the schedule, they're going to be taking on Waterloo tonight at Carson Park. Off day yesterday for the Express, but they're going to be taking on Waterloo tonight and tomorrow at Carson Park. So still got a few more chances to check in or to check out an Express game at Carson Park with tonight and tomorrow night's game. Then they're going to be at home Friday against Rochester. Big game coming up Saturday, home against Duluth. Let's pack Carson Park to make that a home field advantage because that's the team who they're chasing for their division. But then they're on the road for 4 games and then wrapping up the regular season already here in just a couple weeks. So we'll catch up with our friends from the Express coming up at about 8:05. After that, we'll chat Badgers with Mr. R.J. Cardinal from the Zone. Packers training camp also continuing to roll on yesterday. First day in pads for the Packers. And it was also the first day Elton Jenkins suited up for the green and gold. So he returned to practice yesterday. Packers getting their starting center back. And for the first time, probably got to see, or at least right now, what the starting offensive line could look like when they open up week 1. Still, probably some competition to see if Jordan Morgan can crack that lineup somehow, some way here. But nonetheless, good to see Elton Jenkins hitting the practice field for the first time this year. Nate Hobbs has been making some noise in camp, and maybe not necessarily for great reasonings and such, but he got benched yesterday for, again, being a little too physical in practice against his teammates. He had been warned by Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur told him to be a little less physical. And then yesterday, with the pads on, taking out Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd had to leave practice after taking a low hit from Nate Hobbs. And Nate Hobbs was told to sit. Got taken out of practice after that. So, but Hobbs taking full accountability for the play too. Talked a little bit with the media yesterday. Full accountability and full blame. So, but I know we've got family night coming up here this weekend for the Packers before their first preseason game already coming at you next week. But we'll do some updates and what's the latest happening in Packers training camp. It is a Grind My Gears, a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what in the world is grinding your gears? Let us know. You can text it to us on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Comment on the video streams, hit us up on the socials, whatever works best for you. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, shall we? We'll begin things this morning. Talk a little Brewers baseball. Brewers taking game 1 of this series against the Cubs, and the season series is now tied at 3 apiece. Brewers are going to try to go for at least a series win tonight with Quinn Priester on the mound going up against their former teammates. Well, it wasn't Quinn Priester's former teammate, but the Brewers' former teammates, Colin Ray, who's getting the start for the Cubs tonight. So we'll recap last night's victory and look ahead to tonight's game 2. Let's talk some baseball and then talk a little bit about this trade and maybe some potential other moves here for the Brewers. So, all right, that's your game plan. Let's get things going here this morning with a little leadoff. We'll talk some Brewers coming up after these quick words. Just a few days away from the 5th annual Casper Classic. We've got that's coming up this Friday, Lake Hallie Golf Course. Knock on wood, weather looks like it's going to be spectacular for the event. So we'll be doing a show from the golf course that morning before we get set to tee off. Again, a big thanks uh, to everybody who has signed up to play, and our partners and our sponsors for the event, and everybody who has donated raffle items for the event too. Big thanks for that. Let's go through the list here. Gotta lead it off with Lake Hallie Golf for hosting us this year. Big thanks for them. Also, got to give a shout out to Park Ridge Distributing, Edward Jones, Financial Advisor, Kelsey Nikolai, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, VFW Post 305, Myron Construction, Dodge and AJM Automotive Services, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, Economy Furniture, Muldoon's Menswear, Home Oasis, Service Master of Service Master Chippewa Valley, Trillium Spinal Care, The Alchemist, Hot Sauce, prize donations from Chippewa River Industries, Spectrum Industries, awards, and more. Economy Furniture is also donating a chair. VFW Post 305 also donating a prize package. Myron's also donating a prize package. Rocky and Brandon's mom also donating some prizes for the raffles too. So we got items from the Packers, the Brewers, and such. So a big thanks to everybody, and it'll be here before you know it, just a few days, to see who will be hosting the new and bigger title belts this season. In honor of Happy Gilmore too coming out, we've got a putting challenge that we're going to be doing this year with a gold hockey stick. Got to putt with the hockey stick, so that'll be on the putting green at Lake Hallie. So, all right, let's get things going here this morning. Talking some Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers picking up Game 1 victory last night against the Cubbies. Jacob Mizorowski, definitely not the start of the game that he was hoping for in his first matchup against the Cubbies, but putting himself and putting his team in a 3-0 hole. And I don't know if anybody else was out there, but I was already getting some trash talk sent to me by some Cubs fans after the first inning, and some trash talk about Jacob Mizorowski and such. And boy, that one felt good last night, just because I was like, you're saying now what? Don't count your chickens before the eggs hatch, or however the heck that phrase goes. I don't even know how it goes. But it felt good to have that comeback victory after that, after getting already trash talk after one inning from Cubs fans. One inning. It's like, geez, never change. Never change. But he settled down nicely. Mizorowski settling down nicely to finish off the game with 7 strikeouts after having such a huge pitch count in the first inning. Ends up finishing with 7 Ks in the game. And Christian Yelich, after the game, talking to the media and such, said he told Mizorowski that was his favorite start. After throwing 40 pitches in the first, and after the Brewers being down 3-0 after the first inning. For him to be able to bounce back and kind of have a solid finish, that was impressive. Here's the quote from Christian Yelich. I told him it was my favorite start you've had in the big leagues, honestly. All the cruising and the punchies and all that stuff is fun and exciting, but this shows you a lot about what he's made of out there when it's kind of hitting the fan on him. And Pat Murphy kind of saying some similar things about Jacob Mizorowski's start, saying, quote, it's like a fighter getting knocked down in the first round and he had to recuperate. He said, I'm exhausted, and he still gave us 4 and wanted to go out for a 5th. So I learned a lot about him. It just goes to show you the kid can pitch, not just throw. He's going to learn from this. So, yeah, I mean, I would agree with what Murphy and Yelich both had to say. Obviously not his best start of his very young career, but a start that he can learn a lot from. But I also think maybe some of us and maybe some of his teammates and his team learned from him as well. Getting off to that poor start in the first inning, it was easy for the Rails to just fall off instantly. right? I mean, it could have just spiraled out of control after that first inning. Could have came back in the second and just been, you know, throwing gas on a fire and just making it worse, making it a bigger problem. But he bounced back nicely, and he ended up pitching 3 innings after that of some solid ball, of some really solid ball. And you kind of wonder how long he would have gone because, again, it's still a question that's going to be kind of out there about Mizorowski, innings usage and such to finish off the regular season. Who knows how long he could have been able to go in this game. But, I mean, he went 80 pitches, and half of those came in the first inning, for crying out loud. So maybe he could have gone 6 innings in this one, because the bullpen was used quite a bit to get through this game. But not only was it a game that, you know, you're impressed with Mizorowski to bounce back after just a god awful first inning, but I look at it from the offensive side of things here, from the Brewers too. To be down 3-0 in the first inning, you want to talk about spiraling out of control and, you know, making things worse than that. The offense, it just, to me, that was impressive, because how many times over the last few years or whatever did we feel like, okay, if the Brewers get into a hole right away, you don't feel like that they can get out of it. I mean, it was a couple years ago, that playoff team where, you know, that team relied so much on their starting pitching that it felt like if they got into a 2-0 hole, that was almost too big for them to get out of. And you look at yesterday's game, being down 3-0 early on, to get to the bottom of the third and take advantage of some mistakes from Boyd, and to put up 4 runs, to have some clutch hitting in that bottom of the third. And it was doubles, it was singles, it was, you know, putting pressure on the D, taking advantage of mistakes. It was just kind of Brewers baseball offensively that we have seen throughout the majority part of this season. So to do that and not have to just rely on the home run ball to kind of make that comeback from them last night, I think is very beneficial for this Brewers team. But then they add insurance runs on via the home run ball last night, with Yelich hitting his 20th home run, with Sal Frelick hitting his 8th home run, with Andrew Vaughn hitting another home run and continuing his impressive Brewers tenure so far. But I look at that third inning, that bottom of that third inning, to see the Brewers put up 4 runs, the way they did it, trading spots on the base pass, Collins with clutch hits to get those RBIs in, to see Yelich get the first RBI. I mean, that's what you want to see from your top hitter, your main power hitter in that position. You want to be able to see a guy like him get an RBI, get some runs in. And to see it followed up by Vaughn and Collins, you know, those guys. That bottom of the third inning was impressive to me, to be able to see them make that comeback, tie it up, and then eventually take the lead and hold on to the lead after that. And in that third inning, not relying on the home run ball to make that comeback. Just very good situational hitting and clutch hitting. That to me was super impressive. Super impressive. So I loved it. I loved seeing that. Now we'll see if the Brewers, with that win yesterday, they're back in first place in the division, and they'll try to at least get a series win, at least secure a series win today, with Quinn Priester on the mound going for the Brewers. They're going up against their former teammate Colin Ray, getting the start for the Cubbies today. Quinn Priester looking for his 10th win on the season. 9-2 so far for Quinn Priester on this season. And again, we talk about it every time I feel like he comes up, for his starts. But a lot of the talk about other pitchers on this staff, or other, newcomers or rookies on this team, and I know he's not a rookie, but all those other guys who are having really good years and such. I still feel like Quinn Priester kind of flies under the radar a little bit for the solid season that he is putting together. And he has gone up against the Cubs this year. It was back on May 2nd and was perhaps not perhaps, it was his worst outing so far this season. Had a no decision in that game, but he went 4 1/3 and gave up 7 earned runs, 4 walks, and a couple of home runs. I have to imagine he's looking for a little revenge game and a little bounce back game. He's riding a 3-game winning streak. He's 3-0 so far in the month of July in 4 starts with a 3.04 ERA. But on the flip side, I got to imagine Colin Ray, too, would love nothing better than to return to AmFam Field and pick up a win against his former team as well. Now, he has not gone up against the Brewers yet this year. I think, go back to the offseason. Maybe it was a mild surprise, a little bit of a surprise. Maybe the Brewers cut ties from Colin Wright just because of the amount of innings and games that he has pitched for the crew. I mean, he's not a dominant pitcher by any means, but he did some really good stuff and some solid things for the Brewers during his time in Milwaukee. I think it kind of caught some people by surprise a little bit when he was released and such. But, you look at Colin Ray, he's coming on, or right now so far in July, he's 3-1 with a 3.04 ERA. He won his first 3 starts in the month of July. He's coming off of a loss against the Royals, though, where he gave up 3 home runs and 5 earned runs. You take away that game, and his month of July is pretty dang solid. 6 2/3 against the Cardinals on July 4th, 1 earned run. Against the 20s on the 10th, 7 innings, 1 earned run. Against Boston on the 18th, 5 innings, 1 earned run. So overall this season, Colin Ray, he is 8-4 with a 4.06 ERA. He's going to probably be a little bit extra focused in this game. I have to imagine he's going to be just a little extra focused going up against his former ball club here too. So, I mean, you look at the lineups and you look at the batting lineups going up against these pitchers. I don't know how much we could take away from this. The Cubbies got a few guys here with a couple games worth of experience going up against Priester. Some of them from earlier this season, some of them from the year prior and such when Priester was with a different team in that. But I mean, Swanson in 6 at bats is 167 against him. You got Nico Horner in 5 at bats, who's 200 against him. And then Suzuki is 600 against him in 5 career at bats with a home run. So, I mean, those are your guys that have at least a couple games worth of experience going up against him. On the flip side, against Colin Ray, you got Yelich there, who's got 4 career at bats. He's hitting 500 with a 1.000 OPS against him. So, I mean, not a whole lot. I don't think we can, kind of take away and look at experience looking at these two here. But I looking at tonight's game, I think, this is a big opportunity for the Brewers to secure a series win, to take the lead in the season series, and just increase that lead in their division. It'll only be by a game and such, but just a little bit more. These games against the Cubs are huge. Every single one of these. We've got a big series against the Cubs, coming up in August, where you got 5 games in 4 days. I mean, that is going to be a grind, a big time grind. In Chicago too. It's going to be a tough one. But you look at this opportunity in front of you, and you've got the Cubs in your home stadium, and I know whatever, it's Wrigley North or for some people and such, but you take advantage of this and you try. I mean, every single one of these games against the Cubbies is so important in this tight division race. And not maybe not only just a division race now, but you kind of take a look at playoff race and maybe top seed in the National League and such. But I think you got to treat these games against the Cubs with a little bit more I don't know if urgency is the word I'm looking for, or a little bit more focus. I mean, it's kind of like a playoff series here, just a little bit. So I think this is a big opportunity for the Brewers tonight with Quinn Priester on the mound going up against Colin Ray to at least secure this series win. And for a hot minute, take the season series lead. Not to look too far ahead, but tomorrow's game is set up to be a pretty good pitching matchup. Freddie Peralta is going to be going for the Crew. You know the Cubs are very familiar with him. Managa is going for the Cubbies. And he is coming off of an awful start against the White Sox back on the 25th. You know that he might be just a little bit more dialed in. And you know he's going to be looking for a big-time bounce-back start. You know, the 3 games before that, he's been awesome. The 19th against Boston, 7 innings, no earned runs. Against the Yankees on the 13th, 7 innings, 1 earned run. Twins on the 8th, 6 innings, a couple earned runs. I mean, we'll get to that when we get to that tomorrow here. But you kind of look at tonight's game with this pitching matchup. This is a big opportunity for the Brewers tonight to secure this series win and essentially secure a division lead regardless of what happens tomorrow. But, man, it should be a good one tonight. I just hope that the offense can come out and give Quinn Priester maybe a little run support. But I want to ask you, Brewers fans, your overall thoughts on this. Did it impress you last night like it did for me to see the offense, the team, down 3-0 after the top of the first, but able to make that comeback, claw back, and pick up that win, and not rely on the home run ball in that bottom of the 3rd inning to put up those runs? Yes, they had home runs after that to, kind of put the insurance on there. You had the Yelly home run to get his 20th. You had Frelick's, and then you had Andrew Vaughn's, who was first, a solo shot. But how much did that bottom of that 3rd inning kind of impress you with the offensive approach and those guys stepping up and the clutch hitting? It impressed me. It impressed me. I want to hear from you. Let's take a quick break, and we'll wrap up the first hour. Brewers did make a trade yesterday before the game. I probably had the same reaction like a lot of you. A catcher? A catcher? What are we doing? A catcher? We'll kind of go through it. He is a Wisconsin kid coming back home. Graduate high school in Appleton. But why did the Brewers decide to go for a catcher when they've got Contreras? We'll go through some of the scenarios, possible scenarios, and all that stuff. We'll wrap up the first hour talking the latest trade rumors coming up after these quick words. Coming up Sunday, August 17th at our good friends, the VFW Post 305 end of summer celebration. Again, that's Sunday, August 17th out in the Pavilion Tiki Bar from 11 to 5 p.m. Free admissions. They'll have beer, drinks, and foods for purchase, as well as games, raffles, and fun for all. And our good friend Donna over there, who you will be seeing manning the putting contest Friday at the Casper Classic. And Andrew is going to be their kitchen manager. Will be in the dunk tank, so both of them are going to be in the dunk tank, not at the same time though. So just one at a time. $5 for 3 chances to dunk them. Come on out and take your aggressions out on them. Featuring music also from 1 to 4 by Eddie Beavers. So again, mark your calendars for Sunday, August 17th, the end of summer celebration at the VFW Post 305. All right, let's we got a few texts to come up or to get to here this morning. C-Bomb saying the game last night showed a lot of things. Number one, that Miz can have an off game, but still be mentally tough enough to stop the bleeding. And the offense really doesn't care that they're facing one of the best teams in all of baseball and can dig themselves out of a hole. The team isn't scared of anyone, and they can win with pitching or hitting. Dang, this is fun to watch, especially considering I thought this was going to be an average ball club at the start of the year. Tim in the Cooley region chiming in saying, impressed by the Miz after struggling in the first inning. Gave up 3 runs and came back and pitched well. Also, the Brewers are a young team and they didn't seem to be rattled by being down 3 runs in the first inning. Very impressive team effort. Yeah, I mean, both of you, right? Kind of echoing the same thing. I would agree with the both of you. I don't know if it's because they're young and they're too young to know and such, but I mean, you think about it though too. Yeah, they're young, but I mean, they've played in some big games and they've got playoff experiences, right? I mean, Terang, Frelick, if those are the position players we're talking about, young. Obviously, Caleb Durbin, no. But, Mizorowski, obviously, just still in the very, very, very early beginnings of his career. I don't know what else I can add to what you guys have said about the offense. To me, it's just the way that they kind of came out of, in that bottom of the third, the way they took that lead, the clutch hitting from guys like Isaac Collins and Andrew Vaughn continuing his awesome run here for the Brewers. That's what really impressed me from the game yesterday. And yes, Mizorowski able to just kind of take a deep breath and refocus and regroup and check in and have an awesome 3 innings after that dreadful first inning. Impressive. And I think they've got the right mental focus for the rest of the season, because there's probably going to be more games like that, right? I mean, there's going to be more games like that where they're going to have to try to make some comeback wins, and hopefully a game like yesterday. I don't want to make too much of it. I don't want to, try to overreact or anything like that. But I hope a game like yesterday is a game that proves something to them as well. That hey, guys, we're good. Because any one of us who's played a sport, a game, whether it was been baseball, basketball, or football, we've all been down. We've all been losing early in a game. And a lot of time, if you have some of those vocal leaders on your team, hey, guys, we're good. Guys, girls, we're good. We're good. We're good. A lot of it's talk, but when you can actually do it and prove it to yourself that, hey, yeah, we are good. Doesn't matter that we're down. We got this. When you can actually go out there and prove it to yourself, that's like, all right, that now I know. Now we know the Brewers could do that. And it wasn't like they made this comeback against the Rockies or the Pirates. It was the Cubs. And hopefully that's a game that's something that they can learn from and that they'll remember, like, hey, we're good when we get down early. If we go through some obstacles or we hit some rough patches, we're good. We know we're good because we've already proven that. I think that's something they can learn from. So the Brewers yesterday, before the game, acquiring a catcher, Danny Jansen from the Tampa Bay Rays also graduated high school from Appleton West. So kind of a local kid coming back home here. But I probably had the same reaction to a lot of you when it first popped up. A catcher? Then you're starting to think, oh no, did something happen to Contreras? Are they going to put him on the injured list? Why a catcher? Why a catcher? Because it didn't. We didn't talk about the Brewers adding a catcher before the trade deadline. So if you were thinking about, is there something wrong with Contreras? Is there something going on with him? Are they going to be sitting him down for? You hear some of Pat Murphy's comments and such. No, that's not going to be the case. It sounds like that. Contreras is still going to be getting his usual ABs, and he's still going to be playing all these games and such. So it doesn't sound like that they're going to be putting Contreras on the injured list or anything like that. In fact, Murphy, this was from Kurt Hogg, said that Contreras' workload won't change. Quote, for the finger he's had for 2 years, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to have him have surgery? When he hits it, it hurts. If he plays less, what are you saying? It's not going to go away by resting. But I do think you make this move with the intent that Jansen is going to be playing more than Eric Haas has been playing. Whether that's every 4 or 5 days, whether he's going to be paired up with a certain starter going forward. We've seen that before, right? Where a pitcher and a catcher, you got that duo that's always kind of paired together. So maybe that's a possibility. But I think you don't make this move. Yes, it improves your depth. You got a little bit better. No offense to Eric Haas, because he has made some big plays and had some nice moments and good moments. And again, you listen to Pat Murphy after the game yesterday, and he kind of acknowledged it was a hard day for the Brewers to lose Haas, because he's been an incredible team member, he said. He went on to say, when he plays, he helps us win. Anytime we subtract a guy who's been a leader in that clubhouse, it's a really tough day. As great as the win is, as great as my children are, all the great things I have to be grateful for, it hurts too. But it is, all intents and purposes, an upgrade in terms of depth at the catching position. Maybe the Brewers looking at this as a way to maybe protect themselves a little bit if something were to happen to Contreras later on in the regular season. Possibly, maybe. But I was talking to Brandon a little bit about this, and obviously we'll get more of his take on Friday and such. But I'm like, okay, catcher? What's going on with the catcher here? And Brandon said, if you're doing this, then you need to actually give him playing time and sit Contreras down more. Jansen has a better OPS than Contreras, but the Brewers seem to want to play William Contreras at 80% instead of sitting him down. Such a Brewers thing to do, though, with this trade. It's a move. It's if it's a move, excuse me, it's fine. If it's the move, it's incredibly disappointing. And I would agree with that. And I think, I don't want to speak for all Brewers fans, but I think a majority of Brewers fans would say the same thing. If it's the move instead of a move, that's disappointing. Because, yes, you got better a little bit on the bench and your depth, but did you get better in other areas where you really maybe need some improvement, where you maybe need a little bit more of a power bat in the middle of the lineup? So what are the latest rumors as we are just days away from the trade deadline? Ken Rosenthal had a piece up this morning from The Athletic, what he's hearing. And I'll tell you what he's hearing regarding the Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers, who acquired catcher Danny Jansen from the Tampa Bay Rays, are among the teams interested in Baltimore Orioles' Ryan O'Hearn. While O'Hearn would not be a perfect fit for Milwaukee, the team could find at-bats for him at first base, in left field, and at designated hitter. Yelich is the Brewers' primary DH. Andrew Vaughn has filled in well at first for Rhys Hoskins, who is expected to return from a sprained left thumb in mid to late August. Switch hitter Isaac Collins, one of the season's bigger surprises, has emerged as the team's primary left fielder. The Brewers, however, entered Monday ranked 21st in slugging percentage by left-handed hitters and 23rd in home runs. O'Hearn was batting only .218 with a .648 OPS since May 27th, but among the Brewers, only Yelich and Cheerio have exceeded his total of 12 home runs. O'Hearn, a potential free agent, will be owed about $2.5 million. The Brewers, he also notes, showed interest in another left-handed hitting first baseman, Josh Naylor, before the Diamondbacks sent him to Seattle. So possibly looking maybe for that. Oh, another first baseman, we've been focused so much on a third baseman and such. Those are two names there that are first baseman to be real. So, and then I was reading a little bit on MLB.com, where they talked to some executives across Major League Baseball to kind of get a trade deadline temperature. And it seems like, just kind of reading some of the quotes here from AL executives and National League executives, it said here that, let me get to the point. Well, here we go. With someone, not that part. The other intriguing division is the NL Central, with the Brewers, Cubs, and Reds all expected to be buyers. Chicago and Milwaukee entered the week tied for first place and the top wild card spot. Well, we know that's shifted a little bit now after last night's game, while Cincinnati was only one game out of a wild card spot. Quote, I think a lot of this week depends on how aggressive the AL East and the NL Central want to be in general, a National League executive said. There appear to be several buyers in those divisions, and a number of teams believe they can win their respective divisions. Additionally, there are some sellers in those divisions as well, and depending on how they view their future, those clubs could make things interesting. So, yeah. The most notable position players likely to move include Suarez, whose price tag has, to this point, has been exuberant, according to one executive. Ryan O'Hearn, Luis Robert Jr., Marcelo Ozuna, and Cedric Mullins, though the last three are having below-average seasons at this point. And another quote, or a little bit earlier in here, too, says, it seems like there's the buyers that really aren't offering enough, but then the sellers really want a lot. So will they be able to meet in the middle? I mean, there seems to be a little bit of like, back and forth, and yeah, it doesn't seem like everybody's kind of on the same page in terms of value at this point. Is uh kind of what I was getting the vibe of from this piece. But you can check it out. It's on MLB.com and such. Brewers, again, tonight, first pitch, 6:40. Will try to at least secure a series win against the Cubbies. Quinn Priester looking for his 10th win of the season, going up against former Brewer Colin Ray. Coverage will begin 35 minutes prior on your radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. So, all right. Shot clock's going to cut me off here in about 35 seconds, 40 seconds or so. Coming up next hour, we'll switch gears here for a little bit. Packers training camp. Packers put on the pads yesterday, but they also had the return of Elton Jenkins for the first time. What did he have to say to the media about his contract status and such? We'll go over some of what he said to the media yesterday. Nate Hobbs making an impression in camp too, but maybe not for good reasons. We'll go through what's been going on with him in the last few practices and other notes from Packers training camp coming at you. One in, two more to go. We got some news updates, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Second hour kicking off right now on this Tuesday morning. It is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? You can let us know by hitting us up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Or you can chime in on the video streams, email, social media, all that good stuff. Plenty more Brewers talk coming at you throughout this morning, but we're going to talk some Express as well coming up in about an hour, as our good friends the Express will join us with just a couple weeks left of the regular season here. Got a couple games coming at you at Carson Park. Or the Express having the off day yesterday, but back at Carson Park tonight and tomorrow, taking on Waterloo. But a big home game coming up on Saturday. We got to make sure we fill up Carson Park on Saturday as they take on Duluth, the team they're chasing right now for first place in the division. The Express currently in second place. After that, we are inching closer and closer to the start of the college football season too. So we will catch up with RJ Cardinal about 8:25, 8:30 this morning. All right. What else do we got? Let's catch up on a couple of texts here before we switch over to a little green and gold chat. Ryan asks, Haas was designated for assignment. Yes, he was designated for assignment with the move of acquiring Jansen yesterday. Brewers making it official with the trade. Acquiring Jansen, and then they designated Eric Haas for assignment, DFA'd. Steve, did I just hear Eddie Beavers was playing at Casper Classic Friday? No, that is the VFW Post end of the summer bash coming up on August 17th. End of the summer celebration, August 17th at the VFW Post 305. So, all right, let's talk a little green and gold here this morning. But Packers training camp continuing. Yesterday was first day of Pats. And it was also the first day that we got to see Elton Jenkins practice with the ball club. And maybe our first time that as fans and people who have not been, insiders and such, got to see him working out at center. Obviously, we've seen him center in spot times and games and such. But yesterday was kind of possibly, maybe, potentially the first glimpse of what the starting offensive line unit will look like when it comes to week one. Rasheed Walker, Aaron Banks returning to practice after dealing with a little bit of a back issue. Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan at right guard, and Zach Tom also is being suited up. So our first glimpse of potentially what that number one unit can look like or will look like to open up the season. We'll see if Jordan Morgan can still crack that starting offensive line group. We'll see if he can get in there. Can he beat out a guy like Sean Ryan? Can he beat out a guy like Rasheed Walker? Still got some time in his training camp and preseason and such, but it's good just to get Elton Jenkins on the practice field and kind of hopefully move on from this potential contract situation. A couple quotes he said to the media after practice because he was available to answer questions in the locker room. This was from Matt Schneidman. Elton Jenkins said, quote, "For sure, he thought about financial implications of moving from the guard to center at one point, but isn't anymore. Focused on being able to perform to the team." Jenkins said he missed OTAs because of a family matter, not because of his contract. Jenkins also said he told the Packers last season that he eventually wanted to play center, his main position in college. Said he thought it would help the Packers get their best five out there. Said he took a little while to agree to switch after the team asked him to in his exit meeting. So, on one hand, yeah, he told the Packers that he eventually wanted to play center, but then it sounded like he just had to take a little bit to think about it and such. And everything that, Elton Jenkins said yesterday, I mean, I don't think there should be any concern. There shouldn't be any worry about, is he going to have any animosity towards the team or the franchise regarding his contract? Ryan Wood, who was also there, had put out there that Elton Jenkins said he expects no change to the contract coming with a move from center, but he is on board. He's had two conversations with the Packers this spring, one to consider a move and a second to accept. He said he's long considered moving to center later in his career. And when he was asked what kind of center he can be, he said, quote, I feel like the sky's the limit, honestly. I can be an all-pro, Pro Bowl, same guy, probably even better, honestly. So I feel like he's got the right mindset. I feel like he's got the right attitude going into this thing. I'm not really concerned about him throwing a fit, having a hissy fit like some players do about their contract situation and such. I think he gets it, and I think he understands it. And really, a lot of left guards right now, based off average, make more than centers in the league. But whether Elton Jenkins is going to be back next year with the Packers, I think a lot's going to depend on his play this year too. We'll see how that all pans out. But just good to get him back in practice. Good to get him a ton of reps at center with Jordan Love. Again, I know he's done it in spot starts here and there, but now with the focus that he is the number one starting center moving forward, it's just good to get him back in practice and get that line going so we can kind of see, all right, how is this going to shake out? How is the depth going to shake out? Because you got your let's call it right now the number one group that we saw yesterday. All right. Now you got Morgan, who's a lock. You got Belton, who's a lock, the rookie. That's 7 spots. Jacob Monk, Travis Glover, those guys maybe competing for a spot, maybe a couple more spots. But now that everybody's there, you can kind of see, all right, we don't have to plug and play different guys in here. Yes, it's great to have guys to play multiple spots in the line, and that's what the Packers want. That's what they look for offensive linemen. But now that you got your starting unit, quote unquote, starting unit out there, you can kind of like, okay, now we can see where we're really at with some of these guys at certain positions. Maybe now we can really have a battle between Walker and Morgan at left tackle or Morgan and Ryan at right guard. We can put them in there and we can focus on those to see if we really have our best 5 in that starting group with everybody available. The other thing that's kind of made some waves in camp so far has been their new corner, their free agent edition, Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs has been pretty physical in camp, even without the pads, and was at one point kind of given a warning from Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur wanted Nate Hobbs to scale back his physicality in practice, and then yesterday in the first day where they had some pads on, he got a little physical again, ended up taking out Marshawn Lloyd, going low on Marshawn Lloyd, and Lloyd had to leave practice. So here's a little bit of a timeline courtesy of, again, Matt Schneidman from The Athletic. Let's run through what we call the Nate Hobbs physicality timeline. Friday, Hobbs twice gets a little too physical for a non-padded practice while guarding wide receiver Dontavian Wicks. Sunday before practice, LaFleur tells reporters he spoke with Hobbs about toning it down to protect his teammates, while adding that Hobbs' physicality is part of his game the Packers liked before signing him to that contract. Sunday after practice, Hobbs said he spoke to the wide receivers and assured them his physicality is nothing personal. Monday during practice, Marshawn Lloyd, who's coming back from injuries, the primary backup to Josh Jacobs, he limped off the field after Hobbs hit him low, with the Packers only wearing shoulder pads. Marshawn Lloyd didn't return to practice. Nate Hobbs told reporters after practice yesterday that LaFleur disciplined him after the hit on Lloyd and that he agreed with Matt LaFleur's decision. A couple quotes from Nate Hobbs to the media yesterday. He had all the right to do what he did. He sat me for a second, put me in timeout, let me think about my decisions, and I thought about it real good. I do feel horrible. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't an intentional decision like, oh, I'm going to tackle him. It was like I was behind a blocker. Once I popped back in and got my vision on the ball carrier, he was as close as we are, and his shoulder pads go a little down. So by nature, I go low just to protect myself so I wouldn't look crazy and get run over. You know what I'm saying? And I got low, kind of dropped my knee on the ground, and I kind of shot, and I didn't try to tackle him. I just got too low. I take full accountability for that accident. So we'll see how it kind of goes. But one hand, you know, I love hearing about a corner being physical, that aggression, that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, it's like twofold. One, don't knock out one of your teammates in practice where it's going to affect them in the regular season and such. But on the other hand, remember Nate Hobbs does come in with some injury concerns. He's had some injuries in his past. So let's not get hurt in practice. Don't hurt yourself in practice either. Right? No injuries. We don't want injuries to try to get. Nobody wants it. Players don't want it. Coaches don't want it. Front office doesn't want it. Fans don't want it. We don't want to see injuries in training camp. We don't want to see injuries that will affect the regular season. It happens. It happens a lot, but we don't want to see it. Don't want it to happen. All right. Call it what it is and such. I think it's a cool number. I think it's maybe kind of getting blown out of proportion a little bit, but I understand why it's being talked a lot about right now in training camp, considering what the last couple of years has been like. But McManus is killing it. He's knock on wood because we're going to jinx it. He's perfect right now. I mean, this dude is just like doing his thing. And it's gotten a lot of talk and attention. And I think part of it is just strictly because the last couple of years have been a major struggle with kicking in training camp. And it has been a topic of discussion for the last couple of years. Oh my gosh, the instability at the kicking position. Whether it was Anders' rookie year, whether it was the kicking battle last year, McManus has just been like, perfect. Awesome. He's good. He's ready for the regular season. Now, probably be a little bit different when we get into games. Got a little bit of a rush. Got a little bit of, the atmosphere and the environments and that. But, yeah, I mean, I get it why people are talking about it so much. So, all right. We'll have more. We'll chat a little more green and gold and such. But let me throw this back to you then, Packers fans. Okay? So we're almost a weekend. Weekend of practices. Training camp, first practice last Wednesday. Has there been anything that you have seen, maybe you were at practice, or you read, or you heard, that maybe it surprised you a little bit or stood out to you? Player-wise, position battle-wise, is there anything that has really kind of maybe stood out above the rest for you from everything that we have heard, read, talked about with almost a week into training camp for the Pack? Anything? Position battles? Let me know. All right. Hit me up with that text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. We got to take a quick break, though. We'll be back. Don't forget to send me your Toys and Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday as well. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. summer's not over yet, and that means it's still grilling season. Head on over to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire and get your brats. Many different flavors of brats for you to try. Also, put this on the calendar too because got a car show coming up for Mike's Star Market. It's a meet and greet car show Saturday, August 9th from 12 to 6 p.m. We're talking race cars, street cars, classic cars, tractors. Any car you want to show, they want to show it. Vendor and information booths are also welcome. So just stop by Mike's Star Market, speak with Sarah or Mike to reserve your spot. No fees are due over at that point too either. So and then if you go to Facebook, follow their Facebook page because they posted this yesterday. Like and share that post with the Meet and Greet Car Show. 3 winners will be chosen next Monday. But yeah, some cool stuff going on at Mike's Star Market. But put it on your calendars. August 9th, Saturday, August 9th, 2025. The 12 to 6 p.m. Meet and Greet Car Show. Should be a lot of fun. Over there at Mike's Star Market. We got a question from Nick, 2-part question here from Nicholas on our texting line this morning. Nick says 2-part question. In your eyes, which of the Packers 2025 draft picks is making some noise in a good way? Second part, which one of the Packers draft picks is the biggest surprise, good or bad? Well, to start the first, or to answer the first one, I guess, we're just almost a week into this thing. I think the ones making a noise, hate to kind of cop out of it, but I'm going to go Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. Savion Williams was dealing with a little bit of a concussion and missed a little bit of time, but just saw the other day he was also getting some work in with the ones, with the number 1 offense. So that, I think, is obviously he's making noise there. I think we're all kind of intrigued to kind of see what he's going to be able to provide with this offense with his unique set of skills. But I'd also throw in Matthew Golden on there. Matthew Golden seems to be making some noise, and he should be as a first-round pick. I think there's that expectation of being a first-round pick that you should be making some noise. But the fact that he is, and he's been making a lot of plays and touchdown catches. I know it was a big talking point yesterday. His first drop of camp, dropped the pass, although to the writers there that were watching practice, they're like, it wasn't the greatest throw. The coaches are going to count it as a drop from Matthew Golden. But some of the plays that he's been able to make in practice and such, it seems like it's those 2 guys that right now, rookie-wise, are making some noise in camp, and I just kind of base it off of the beat writers who are there every day. Who are they talking about the most? And it seems like from that rookie class, it's Williams and Matthew Golden that they're talking about the most. The player, I guess, that's the biggest surprise, either good or bad. I'm probably changing the question a little bit to fit my answer, if that kind of makes sense, because it's hard not quite being a week into this thing. But I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go with the bad part, but I'm going to say the most disappointing one right now is probably Colin Oliver, and it's strictly because he's dealing with an injury, and we haven't seen him yet. And I know with him being hurt, he can't be out there and such, but I'm really curious to see how the heck the Packers are going to use him. He is a great pass rusher. College-wise, he was a great pass rusher, had a knack for getting after the quarterback. But you look at his physical traits, 6'2", 240-ish. How does he fit in this defense? I mean, based off those his weight and height and that, it's like, okay, he's a little too small to be a D end. But is he really a linebacker though too? Are you if his skill set is rushing the passer, you want to limit him playing in like weak side linebacker, strong side linebacker? Is he just a designated, pass rusher? I was really curious to see how the Packers were going to kinda line him up in training camp and in practice and such, and the fact we haven't been able to see that yet because of his injury, you know, to me is probably the biggest disappointment. Other than that, I mean, I think it's kind of a little too I've seen some things about Belton, Anthony Belton, the second round pick tackle. You know, he's been just kind of a road grader and such. He's not gonna be a starter this year, but I think it's gonna be uber important for him to be ready to go because he's probably gonna be the primary backup tackle or one of them with Jordan Morgan, depending on if Jordan Morgan's gonna be a starter or not. You know, that remains to be seen. Belton might have the chance to be the first. Yeah, that to me though too is gonna be interesting. Let's say Jordan Morgan doesn't get a starting job. Let's say he doesn't win a starting job and he's going to be kind of the first man in. He's getting time in at tackle, he's getting practice time in at guard. But say he's not a starter. And then let's say, knock on wood, something happens to Rasheed Walker where they got to bring in a left tackle. Who would they go with? Do you go with Jordan Morgan, who was the first round pick last year? But there were questions about, okay, can his size, can he really transition to a left tackle at the NFL? Is he better suited for a right tackle or maybe guard? Or would they go with the massive Anthony Belton, who's 6'6" and like 335 pounds, played left tackle at Georgia? And there was some talk about maybe he would be a little bit better suited for right tackle at the NFL. That to me would be curious to see if Jordan Morgan is not a starter, who is the main left tackle then? Like who would be the guy to play that left tackle spot? Because I don't think they're going to move Zach Tom over there. They could, I guess, but I don't think they will. But who would have the advantage first? Is it going to be Anthony Belton or Jordan Morgan? But you know, from the first few practices and such, it sounds like Anthony Belton's been solid. You know, hasn't really like blown the door off of anything or like, holy moly, this guy is just like dude's already best left tackle in the game. You know, not that sort of stuff. But it seems like he's been pretty darn solid. But the most disappointing one for me is Oliver because I really wanted to see how the Packers were going to line him up. And it's not to say that Green Bay was going to give up any of their secrets in training camp and preseason, but it just would have been curious to see how they were utilizing him initially in practice. Because he is, at least in college, he was just a fantastic pass rusher and getting after the quarterback. But the physical traits he brings, he's kind of like stuck in the middle and such. You know, got a little bit of work in with Micah Robinson. He didn't start practicing right away with the team, but I mean, he was the only corner that was picked by the Packers last year, but he is a seventh rounder in there too. So he's got to make some way and try to climb up that depth chart in that. You know, the one guy that, and maybe I haven't really seen a whole lot from it, from or news updates about him and such has been Baron Sorrell from Texas. You know, fourth round pick, Texas. We know the cool story. He was in Green Bay for the draft. We all saw that video. You know, day 3 pick. He was actually there. Packers didn't even know he was there and such. But it seems like it's been pretty quiet on the Baron Sorrell talk in training camp. And again, maybe I've missed it, which easily could have happened and such. But yeah, that's maybe one of the rookies too that you can maybe put in the good, bad, you know, whether they're making noise or not. So hopefully that's a long way of answering your question over there, but appreciate that. So, all right, we've got a couple more texts to catch up on here. This is from Ryan. What grinds my gears? I just want Marshawn Lloyd to have a healthy camp and see what he can do for a full season. I get that Nate Hobbs wants to be aggressive, but hold off your own teammates. Yeah, kind of talked a little bit about that too. I like the aggressiveness from Nate Hobbs, but at the same time, let's try to save it for games that matter. Let's try to save it for, the opponents, not taking out your own teammates. And considering Hobbs, you have an injury history yourself. Try not to hurt yourself in practice. And I understand too, it's hard to turn off at times. I understand it's kind of like hard to turn off the that switch, like, okay, I gotta ease up or not tackle and all that. I understand that, but don't take out any of your teammates, dude. So Surveyor Sam, what up, DK? You know what grinds my gears? Having to wait another 72 hours for the classic to tee off. I swear to the Lord, I swear that the Lord said to the universe, why don't you take Sunday? Why don't you take a Sunday drive this week and slow down? Because this week is dragging by slower than a slug dragging a freight train in Siberia. Whew. Is it going that slow? I don't know. We had a long weekend in Tomahawk for baseball, so I don't know. I kind of feel like it's already Tuesday. I thought yesterday was already Tuesday, to be honest with you. I'll just tell you what, it's probably going to go by fast for me because I'm going to be stressing out getting ready for Friday, Surveyor. So it may be going slow for you, but I'm going to be a little stressed out for this week, getting ready for the outing. That's just me. I always get stressed out about stuff like that. So a couple more texts. Timmy G earlier said, Collins, Rookie of the Year, just saying. Well, I mean, the Brewers have a couple of options over there. You got Durbin, who's a candidate for Rookie of the Year, but then another guy named Jacob Mizorowski, who right now is the odds-on favorite to win National League Rookie of the Year. So, but you got. I mean, Collins, for what he has done, nobody had that on their bingo card. Nobody did, and that's where it's like, you want another power bat. I want another power bat. I think a lot of Brewers fans want another power bat in that lineup. But who are you taking out? Is it Collins, who has been a pretty darn good player for you this year? And he had that clutch hit last night and that bottom of the third rally? You want to take him out? Who do you take out? Yes, you can have a little bit of a rotation and such going on there, but I mean, if a dude's hot, you got to keep rolling with the guy who's hot in your lineup. Like, who do you take out if you make this move? Because it's probably going to be Collins, but guy has been super impressive. I've just been impressed with a lot of these young guys and their what's the word I'm looking for? Focus or just stepping up in the moment. Like the moment just hasn't been too big for a lot of these younger players, like a Collins, like a Durbin, and Mizorowski and such. Good to see Yoho back in the bullpen. I know they had to send out Tobias Myers for that, but Craig Yoho back with the Major League Ball Club too. Just shoring up that bullpen even better, making it a little bit deeper. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll wrap up the second hour. Send me your Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. All right. Hit me up with those as we wrap up the second hour because we got a busy third hour. Talking a little Express, talking a little Badgers. Let's talk some more Brewers too. Coming up after these quick words. At Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, you're more than just a customer. Hey, you're part of the family. From the moment you walk in, their amazing team is dedicated to helping you find the perfect flooring for your home or business. Whether you're looking for carpet, tile, or luxury vinyl planks, they have a wide range of options to fit any style and budget. And when it comes to price, they will match or beat the competition. Their commitment to outstanding customer service means they're here to guide you through every step of the process, from selection to installation. I mean, that's what they've done for us so many times, whether it's been my house or even here at studios, putting in the new flooring in a couple of our studios and such. So, for quality, value, and a team that treats you like family, visit Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire today. Got about what are we at here? 15 minutes to the top of the hour. Again, coming up just past 8 o'clock. We'll catch up with our good friends from the Eau Claire Express. Just a couple weeks left of the regular season. The Express currently in second place in the division, chasing Duluth here. So the Express will be back at Carson Park tonight and tomorrow, taking on Waterloo. So make sure you get on over to Carson Park to support the Express, especially this game coming up on Saturday when they welcome Duluth to Carson Park. So we'll talk with them and with college football. The season coming up here soon. We'll catch up with our good buddy, Mr. RJ Cardinal, after we catch up with the Express. So just what is this? Saw this. Jacob Mizorowski cards right now are just ridiculous. Holy moly. This was Fanatics Collect. This Jacob Mizorowski 1/1 Superfractor sold for $52,800. 200% more than his previous record. Holy moly. See, this is what I tell Hudson. When he's looking at Brewers cards, and these are guys that are maybe still in the AAA or AA, but there's a lot of talk surrounding them, and I'm like, dude, just because they're not at the major league level right now, might be worth it. Might be worth getting some of those cards. Look at that. Holy moly. $52,800. Did you guys see the video too of Mizorowski? He was at a card shop and opening up a pack, and he ended up opening up a rare one of himself. That was pretty cool. I think it was actually a shop in Milwaukee, at least, or around Milwaukee too. I'll have to double check that. But man, crazy. Brian on our video stream chiming in a little bit just a few minutes ago, saying yesterday's Brewers game was a true test of grit. The Miz struggled in the first inning, and a lot could have went wrong after that first inning. He settled in and pitched 3 great innings after that. The bats came alive in the bottom of the third, and the Brewers never looked back. A lot of credit has to be given to Vaughn and Collins for their offensive production, as well as veterans Yelich and Contreras. Our bullpen was lights out once again. If we can come back from 3-0 deficit against the Cubs and then only hold them to 1 run over 8 innings, I'm pretty excited for this team down the stretch. And there was also, you want to talk about some defensive plays too. We've been last couple weeks, Ortiz, and obviously what Sal Frelick has done, and Terang. Jackson Chirio, the improvements that he has made from a defensive standpoint. I mean, last year we were talking about this guy who was playing a little bit deeper than you normally would as an outfielder, just because, was maybe still getting adjusted to getting a read off the ball, off of fly balls and such. And there was times where maybe he was playing a little deep and maybe not being as aggressive and letting, fly balls drop in front of him. It was a point of frustration for Brewers fans, but we could also see on some teammates' faces too. Second year, he's been getting the majority of his playing time in center field. And gun a guy out at third. It was a big out. The improvement that we have seen from Jackson Chirio on the defensive side, because I know there's probably some fans looking at Jackson Chirio's offensive numbers and saying, man, they're not awful, but maybe not hitting the expectations that I had for him, or that maybe he should be hitting in his second year. He's got 17 home runs, 67 RBIs. He is hitting 274. But I feel like there's probably some fans out there saying, yeah, no, well, there goes the 30 for 30 season. He ain't going to get 30 home runs. He's had 18 stolen bases. There's probably some out there saying, didn't really maybe hit that. But you look at the strides of improvement that he has made on the defensive side. I think is pretty dang cool. And you look at, his OPS and his average, what he's got this year compared to his quote unquote career. It's only been last year and this year so far. This year he's hitting 274. He's a career 274 hitter. His OPS is 777. He's a career 785. On base 309, career 319. So it's pretty fantastic, though, to see the strides of improvement that Jackson Chourio has made from a defensive standpoint. And I think it kind of gets overlooked and maybe not talked about enough. Is he, a Gold Glove winning center fielder? No. But you can just see how much more comfortable he is in the outfield. He's taking better angles. He's getting better reads off the ball. It just, for a team that's, in first place, and Jackson Chourio is playing center field, considering some of the stuff we saw last year in his defensive play in the outfield, I think that deserves a tip of the cap. And work and a credit for the coaching staff for working him to get him ready. Because, we began the season, Garrett Mitchell was going to be in there. He gets hurt, misses a ton of time. Blake Perkins didn't begin the season. They could have easily probably put Sal Frelick in center field. He's got the range. He's done it. But they put Jackson Chourio in there, and I think he's done a pretty solid job manning that center field spot. And depending on what they do at the trade deadline, if they do anything else, maybe he finishes off the season as the everyday starting center fielder. Maybe they find another guy that could plug in at center field and he goes back to left field. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. We're just a couple days away from that trade deadline, and I don't have any good gauge of what the Brewers are going to do or if they do anything at this point. I don't. And a lot of it is because they've got these other guys like a Collins who was playing well, a Durbin who was playing well. Yes, they need more power, I think. I think they need another power bat. But then you have to ask the question, who do you sit then? Who essentially loses their job by bringing in this guy? Vaughn has been playing well in relief for Rhys Hoskins. I know there's been some talk about getting another first baseman, but is that the move? Do they still look maybe at a shortstop, but then maybe you sacrifice some defense? Let me ask you this, Brewers fans. So this was from yesterday, MLB.com. 6 teams that should feel the most urgency at the deadline. 6 teams that should, I'm not going to read every, write up about teams, but I'll tell you the 6 teams they picked. Giants, Red Sox, Reds, Blue Jays, Astros, Phillies. No Brewers. Should the Brewers be a team that should feel a lot of urgency at the deadline? Do you think they are or should be one of the top teams that should feel the most urgency at the deadline? I think if you ask the Brewers, they'd probably be like, no, we don't feel any urgency. And honestly, and some people may say that could be GM speak, coach speak. But I truly believe that they don't feel a lot of urgency and they trust their process and they trust their way of going about their business. They're comfortable. They're confident in how they go about doing things. That's honestly how I feel like is Matt Arnold's mindset and is that whole front office's mindset. And really, we haven't heard a ton of Brewers rumors. Let's be real. I'm scrolling through like the latest rumors from MLB.com and by date. And I can tell you right now, I am really struggling to find a Brewers rumor. Now, does that mean it's because the Brewers aren't actively calling or looking? I'd say probably not. Does it mean they're very tight-lipped and pretty maybe secretive about it? I could see that. Absolutely. But I also feel like it's probably because there's a lot of these media members and writers and such that just don't feel like the Brewers are going to make that big splash move. Why waste their time on it? Because they're not going to do it. They just have this mindset that they're not going to do it. And they're probably right. I don't see the Brewers making a big splashy move. I don't see Suarez coming over from the Diamondbacks. I'm sorry. I don't see it. Yes, the Yankees are probably out of that running now after they got Ryan McMahon from Colorado. Does that mean the Cubs are going to go after him? Does that mean another team's going to go after him? I would say that I think, if I had to pick, and, the other team in that article that's not listed in top six was a little surprised to me was the Cubs. I thought maybe the Cubs would be a team that would maybe feel a little bit of that urgency, because you have Tucker for a 1-year deal. You're kind of looking at this season like, okay, in the position where we're at right now, yes, we're fighting for first with the Brewers, but we're also fighting for first for the National League. And we're getting some really great performances from Pete Crow Armstrong, from Tucker. I'd feel a little urgency to take advantage of that. That's just me, but I would feel that urgency. So I was a little surprised that, at least they didn't put them on there. I think again, I'm not a Cubs fan, but if you are a Cubs fan, do you feel a little urgency for your team to make a move before the deadline here coming up in a couple weeks? So, speaking of the Cubs, Sandberg. Ryan Sandberg passing away was announced during the game yesterday at the age of 65. Sandberg, this was a guy I grew up watching. And I think for the longest time when I thought about, and maybe a lot of people my age, when you thought about second baseman, it was Sandberg was probably one of the very first. If he wasn't the first, he was probably one of the very first people that came to your mind. And growing up in the era that I did, there wasn't a ton of other games on TV other than Braves on TNT or TBS or Cubs games on WGN. So, a lot of games watching Sandberg, Mark Grace, those type of players. But yeah, it was just, what was it? A couple weeks ago, and he's been battling cancer. He had the social media posts and such, and now he ends up passing away. Cancer is just, God, awful thing. But I know a lot of people have chimed in about it, and even if they weren't Cubs fans, they like Sandberg was like one of their favorite players to watch and such. And yeah, I remember watching him a lot when I was a younger kid. Part of it was because there was no other game on TV besides, Braves and Cubs and that. But also just Ryan Sandberg was such a fun player to watch too. So I think for a lot of Cubs fans, I think if you ask a lot of Cubs fans who their favorite player is of all time, Ryan Sandberg is probably going to be picked quite a bit, I would imagine. So, all right, let's continue our baseball talk coming up here in just a little bit. We've got the Express coming up here. We'll chat a little bit about them and kind of look at the next couple weeks here. Fighting to win that second half championship. They're in second place right now, chasing Duluth. We got to make Carson Park a home field advantage when Duluth comes over here on Saturday. We got to make it a home field advantage tonight and tomorrow against Waterloo. But what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My math's correct. 12 games left here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are at Carson Park. Let's get Carson Park a rocking, all right, and get this team to the postseason. So we'll catch up with the Express coming up here and then switch gears here just for a little bit. After that, we'll talk a little college football as we are inching closer and closer to the college football season. We'll chat with RJ Cardinal and talk some Badgers and such with him too. But plenty more Brewers talk coming in the final hour too. Brewers fans, if you're just joining in, we've spent a lot of time talking about last night's game. But how impressive was the game for you Brewers fans in terms of like Mizorowski after that bad first inning coming in or coming back and settling down and putting together the performance he did? The offense, like for me, that was what, if I had to rank them, that really stood out to me because how many times have we talked about, this Brewers team, in the last few years, they get down 2-0, they can't climb out of it. They did it, and it wasn't via the home run ball in the third inning. They had home runs later on in the game, but they were manufacturing runs the way the Brewers have kind of done all season long. All right, 2 in, 1 more to go. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. through. We're already in the final hour on this Thursday. See, Surveyor? I think it's already Thursday. I don't know why you think this week's going slow. Tuesday morning, dude. Appreciate you tuning in however you're tuning in from. We're going to catch up with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up, let's say in about 20, 25 minutes or so as we inch a little bit closer and closer to the start of the college football season. So we'll talk a little Badgers with him. So when that's coming up here, I know we've been talking a lot about training camp for the Packers and that, but the college football season already going to be here before you know it. So we'll talk catch up with RJ here in just a little bit. The Express back at Carson Park tonight. They're going to be taking on Waterloo. Then they got Waterloo again tomorrow at Carson Park. Then they hit the road taking on Rochester Thursday. Back home Friday nights against Rochester. And then Saturday, that big game against Duluth at Carson Park. Just 2 more games against Duluth. That's the team the Express are chasing. The Express are in second place right now in their division. The team that's in first place, Duluth. So 2 big games coming up against Duluth here this weekend. But still got to win the games in front of you. And they've got, again, Waterloo tonight and tomorrow at Carson Park. Then a quick trip to Rochester before returning home for 2 more games at Carson Park. But you kind of do the math. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games left, if my math is correct. And 5, 6, 7 of them are at Carson Park. So, yes, we got a few more games left at Carson Park, but time is running out if you have not been to Carson Park to check out any of the Express games, or, you still want to check out some more. And we've got some cool stuff coming up here, including August 2nd against Duluth. Back to school night and the Vic Cable bobblehead giveaway sponsored by Play It Again Sports. You also have the Dylan Martinson concert going on there too. So that's coming up this weekend. Got to get the pairing. If you already got the Dale Varsho bobblehead, you got to go out there and get the Vic Cable one and pair it up, don't you? So put that on the calendar. Make sure you get in line. Make sure you get to Carson Park early coming up on the 2nd against Duluth. Not only for that bobblehead, but to pack Carson Park because we need to get that W. We need to get that W. So, also August 7th, just kind of looking at some of the upcoming promotions here. August 7th versus Rochester is the Oktoberfest t-shirt giveaway, sponsored by Close Up Apparel. And then August 9th against Waterloo, just put this on the calendars too, Fan Appreciation Day. You got Uncommon Denominator concerts. So those are just kind of some of the upcoming promotions here for the Express. But if you want to get to an Express game, just again, another good reminder, if you're looking for tickets, all right, go straight to the source. Go to the Eau Claire Express websites. Go to the Northwoods League website. That's where you want to get your tickets, not a third party or anything like that. You don't want to, pay fees you don't have to and such. So, but get to the Express website. That's where you should be getting your tickets. All right. So if you're looking at the standings right now in the Northwoods League, especially for this division here for the Express. Start off with the Great Plains East. Duluth 18-7. They're in first place. They have won 7 of their last 10 games. The Express are in second place. They're 4.5 back. So they got some work to do. They still got time, but they got to take care of their own business. They got to win their games, but they're going to need a little bit of help too. They're going to need a little bit of help. So if you're looking at the Duluth schedule, who do you got to cheer for coming up here? Well, let's start off with tonight. They're at Thunder Bay, so go Thunder Bay. Then tomorrow at Thunder Bay. They got a lot of games against Thunder Bay. And Thunder Bay right now is 10-14 on the season. So hopefully Thunder Bay can help out the Express and pick up some of these wins because they've got 4 straight games against Thunder Bay, 2 away, 2 at home. Then that home and away against the Express for 2 games, a couple games against Rochester, and then they finish up with 4 games against Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay, we need you to play spoiler. All right? You got to play spoiler. You got to help out the Express. All right? Come on, Border Cats. We're counting on you. Minor Lacrosse won the division the first half. Right now, they're 11-16 on the season, but we already know they're going to the postseason because they clinched that first half division championship. What are the other divisions looking like in the Northwoods League? Well, in the Great Lakes East, Traverse City, who already clinched a playoff spot, they're at the top right now at 19-7 in the second half. They've been 9-1 in their last 10 games. Kalamazoo, though, in second, 15-11. Those are the only 2 teams in the Great Lakes East with winning records so far in the second half of the season. Great Lakes West, the Wausau Woodchucks on top right now, 17-5. Just killing it so far in this second half of the season. Green Bay won the first half division. They're 15-9. You got the Madison Mallards, who are just 2 games behind Wausau, though, too. So even though Wausau's 17-5, Madison's 15-7, and they're 9-1 in their last 10 games. Wausau's 8-2 in their last 10. Those 2 teams playing really well here, too, down the stretch. The Great Plains West, you got the St. Cloud Rocks, who clinched the first half. They're at top right now by a half game over the Mankato Moondogs. St. Cloud is 15-9, Mankato 14-9. Got the Badlands Big Sticks, though. They're a half game back, too. They're 15-10. Wilmer Stingers, they're not far back either. 1.5 back, sitting there at 15-12. So, yeah, 4 teams there. St. Cloud's already got it wrapped up for the first half here, but that's a fun division to be looking at where the standings are currently at. So that's a little bit of your Eau Claire Express update. But again, they're at Carson Park tonight, at Carson Park tomorrow, and then that big game against Duluth on Saturday. Also at Carson Park on Friday night, too. So let's pack Carson Park on Saturday, shall we? Switching gears really quick here to the Brewers before we get to RJ Cardinal. Brewers, Game 2, Cubs tonight. First pitch, 6:40. 6:40. You got Quinn Priester on the mound for the Brew Crew, looking for his 10th win of the season. This Brewers team has been a team. This might be a good poll question. But this Brewers team has been a team that has been full of surprises this year. Individual players, results, whatever. But from an individual player standpoint, you got the Isaac Collinses. You know, Caleb Durbin came in with a little bit of fanfare, but probably playing better than I think some expected. You know, Jacob Mizorowski, he again had a lot of hype, had a lot of expectations as a AAA player, but I think he's kind of blown the door off of that a lot too this year. And then Quinn Priester, Chad Patrick. I mean, this has been a team that has gotten contributions all across the board from a ton of people we didn't know a whole lot about, or we knew a little bit about, whether it was from AAA and such, but maybe didn't really have like high goals for them right away in year 1. But Quinn Priester is a part of that group, and I know we keep hammering it every time his start comes up, but it's because with this starting rotation, and you look at it with Freddie, with the Miz, with Woodruff, you throw in Quintana there. Quinn Priester's name deserves to be mentioned as part of that rotate. A lot of us focus on the top 4, and then you got Nestor Cortez coming back here too soon. But Quinn Priester is going for his 10th win of the season. And this was a guy who didn't begin the season with the Brewers. It kind of did, you know, with a quick trade, but wasn't with the team in spring training. Honestly, if the Brewers didn't have all those injuries to their starting pitching staff, Quinn Priester probably isn't a member of the Brewers. But because out of necessity and because of need of trying to find a starting pitcher, they bring in this Quinn Priester. And it was like, again, did they pay too much for him? Did they give up a little bit too much for him? And then you hear like, hey, we want to get him in our lab. We want to get him in our system because we think we can essentially say make him better. And it was kind of setting the bar a little bit low. It kind of gave that impression a little bit. But, I mean, what he has done and the job that the Brewers have done so far with him has just been awesome. I mean, he's tied with Robbie Ray with, guys like Robbie Ray, with Merrill Kelly, with 9 wins. He's like 1 win behind Tariq Skubal and Jacob deGrom. Quinn Priester's officially tied for 14th with the most wins in Major League Baseball. Garrett Groshette and Freddie Peralta tied for the most with 12. So it's just been a fantastic season for Quinn Priester, and a hell of a fine for Matt Arnold and that front office staff. But on the other side, you've got Colin Ray, who I have to imagine would love nothing more than to come into American Family Field, going up against his former team and saying, "You boys made a mistake letting me go." I mean, come on. They can downplay it. He can downplay it. And that's probably the right thing to say. So you don't provide maybe some bulletin board material or whatever. We're human. He's just as human as you and I. He's just a little bit better of a baseball player than a lot of us, though. But deep down, he wants to just have the game of his life going up against his former team. Because when he was released by the Brewers, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." Really? They're moving on from him, and he logged a lot of innings for the Brewers. Whether it was starts, whether it was, coming out of the bullpen. I mean, the guy was one of those a couple years ago put in a position like, who's this guy? And he played a lot of games for the Brewers and helped out the Brewers in a lot of ways. And then this last offseason when, he was coming off of a season where he was 12-6. 12-6. Yes, his ERA was up there. He was a 4.29. It still was a little bit of a surprise that the Brewers decided to move on from him. So he goes to the Cubs. Stays in the division. Doesn't have to go far. And now he returns to Milwaukee. He wants to just have the game of his life. Again, they'll downplay it. He'll say all the right things in the media. But there's just that extra motivation. There's that extra little oomph, extra preparation and focus. And you darn well know his teammates, too, know he's going up against his former team. They know this. So they may even turn just like have a little, let's win this one for Colin. It's going to be there. So I think it's going to be a good game tonight. The pitching match is like, oh, Colin Ray, oh, Quinn Priester, that's made from a national sense. But for us who really know these two teams well and focus on especially the Brewers and such, this is a big game. And this is a big opportunity here for the Brewers. Not only to just rack up another win against the Cubs, but to rack up a little bit more space between the Brewers and the Cubs for the division lead, for a National League lead. To, for a hot minute, take the season series lead. But you look at tomorrow's game, too, and it's like, whew, Peralta and Imanaga. And he's coming off of an awful game against the Royals. He's probably going to be hyper-focused and looking for a bounce-back win. Cubs have faced Freddie Peralta a ton. They know him. You look at it on paper, that looks like a pitching matchup. But I want the Brewers to win this one tonight because if they can get this done and at least secure a series victory here, that'd be huge. Be huge. I'm not throwing in the towel for tomorrow's game if anybody's thinking that. I'm not doing that. It's just I think there's an opportunity here for the Brewers. I think it favors the pitching matchup, favors the Brewers for tonight's game. That's kind of where I'm at, and I want them to take advantage of that. And after that, they're hitting the road here. Then I think, yes, I'm looking a little too far ahead probably. But I look at this and I'm like, okay, the Cubs, all right, you wrap it. You go to the road. You have an opportunity now to rack up some more wins. Washington, you should win that series. Atlanta, you should win that series. Mets at home. That'll be a tough one. Pittsburgh, you should win that series. Cincinnati, you should win that series. And then it's that final series against the Cubs as we start to wrap up the month of August. Those 5 games in 4 days. And that is a tough stretch of games coming up for the Brewers. Again, looking a little too far ahead. I get it. But, I mean, this is what we're looking at. And remember, this is that stretch where they don't have an off day. So starting August 14th, they have an off day. But from August 15th to September 1st is a game every day. Their next off day would be September 2nd. And this stretch, this will be a season-defining stretch, in my opinion, for the Brewers. 3 road games against Cincinnati starting August 15th. Cincinnati, still a team in the hunt right now. Those 5 games in 4 days against the Cubs. You're home against the Giants, a team competing for a playoff spot. Diamondbacks seem like they're kind of sellers at this point. I mean, you know, they're probably going to be a different team. But that's 4 games at home against the Diamondbacks. Then 3 games against the Blue Jays, who are playing some awesome baseball on the road. Then 3 against the Phillies. Then you got Pittsburgh for 3, and then Texas. That is a season-defining stretch of games for the Brewers coming up here. And why I bring that up is because looking at the schedule before those games, I think there's an opportunity here for the Brewers to rack up a bunch of wins. Get the job done tonight. Secure that series win. There's no reason why you can't win the series in Washington and in Atlanta. Mets will be tough at home. Pittsburgh, you should win. Rack up these wins because that is a tough stretch coming up starting August 15th. All right, let's take a quick break, and we will chat a little bit with RJ Cardinal. Packers training camp's going on, but college football is right around the corner as well. So we'll catch up with him coming up after these quick words.
Find cozy fit Skechers slippers at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
You ever go car shopping and just walk back to your old car and say, you know what? You're not so bad. Maybe a new paint job, maybe fix up those dents and dings. New car prices are going crazy now. Interest rates, prices, everything is up. Mako can make your current ride look like new. Paint touch-ups, dent repairs, fresh bumper. It's a little like a car makeover is what it is. At Mako, they make it easy. Come in for a free estimate, and their expert technicians will handle the rest. Quick turnaround, by the way. Real value. That's what Mako does. And we're keeping our cars longer. So make your current ride feel new again. Before you shell out for something new, make your old look new. With Mako's national reach and community focus, you're not just getting top-notch service. You're actually getting a partner you can trust. Go to Mako.com today. You'll find a shop near you and book. That's Mako, MAACO. And remember, better get Mako.
Broadcasting live from the TDS Sports Talk 105.1 studios, it's the Dan Kasper Show.
We've been talking a lot about Packers training camp, almost a week into this thing. So we know the NFL season is quickly approaching here, but it also means college football is quickly approaching and right around the corner here, too. Let's bring in Mr. R.J. Cardinal, our Badger analyst this morning. And R.J., last week was Big Ten meetings and such. And I know last week when we were when you were on and such, I threw out the question, what would you ask, Luke Fickell, if you had a question and such at the Big Ten meetings and that. I know, he answered some questions, some players were there too. Did you learn anything? Did you find anything intriguing or anything stand out to you from anything from Big Ten media days last week, RJ?
Wisconsin has to start playing big boy football. Like it's nothing that we haven't heard already since, some disappointing seasons since we've been here with this staff. The offense really likes the new playbook that's in, whether it's because there's actually a playbook or whether it's because these guys actually want to play football and not, open space running. I don't know what you want to call whatever Longo was doing, but it definitely wasn't feeling the flow of a game to have fluidity on what was working on a day, because he would drop things that were working in the middle of a game to appease whatever he felt needed to be done. And his philosophy was really weird, because like Braden Locke was getting good grades for throwing interceptions to guys he saw on the field. So I'm not sure how, that all plays out in there, but guys are liking the new offense. We have to play big boy football, and it's really nothing new from what we from last week that we already knew from spring ball and after the season when quote unquote exit interviews were happening.
Mm-hmm.
But and then before the team left for Platteville yesterday, they had a bit of a media day at Camp Randall, and the coordinators talked, and I mean, we're still hearing the same thing from Grimes on pushing towards a return to more Wisconsin offense with modern concepts. So really looking forward to seeing how that progresses here in the fall camp. We heard a lot about the weight players put on and the speed they gained. So there's that. We have yet to see if Katie Akamelli is going to ever see playing time. The last offensive coordinator didn't seem to think that was the case. Also, a few other players who were in the portal and came back once the new offensive coordinator hire happened. And then your defensive coordinator said, we can't keep putting square pegs in round holes and just trying to be stubborn into doing something. Well, I mean, it took you a whole season to figure that out because you did it all season, and it's the reason Iowa made you look silly. It's the reason Minnesota is making you look silly. It's the reason you're losing to pretty much every team you should be beating, and somehow you stayed in it against some better teams in the year. Whether that's because you coached them up during 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks in the season, and then just said, "Hey, we're going out there because we're Wisconsin." I don't know, but you have a defensive coordinator who I think kind of knows his job's on the line this season. So we'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. Another thing from Big Ten Media Days, I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on. So, is this college football playoff expansion? And it seems like the Big Ten commissioner is really kind of dead set against the 5+11 format. He's pushing. It seems like the 16-team format where the Big Ten and the SEC gets 4 teams from each conference and then 2 each from the ACC and the Big 12, et cetera, et cetera. But what are your thoughts on that, and how much power, sway do you think Tony has to maybe push for the format that he wants for the college football playoff?
I think he has more than people realize. I mean, I guess we can consider the last 2 years have been Big Ten national champions. Now, granted, it's Ohio State and Michigan. It's back in the day, the big 2+8. So that's no different from the SEC. They're pretty much all the national championships have been from the same 3 schools. I think it's just been or 4. Georgia, Alabama, LSU.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, tell me where they fall in having a much better conference than anybody else. A lot of them came in a format where a computer kind of puts you where you're at, and when you had one of the lowest rated national championship games in the history of college football, it forced a format change to a playoff, and moved on from the BCS to where you went to whatever they did with the rotating national championship game and the New Year's Six, and then that eventually made its way to the college football playoff. So don't tell me people want to watch the SEC. They don't. It's just forced on them. Right now the Big Ten, probably most powerful in terms of dollars when you're now in that $1 billion deal. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of power a former TV executive and now college football or college commissioner has.
Right. Yeah. So that's it seems like he is really like digging his heels in on not wanting that 5+11. And is it strictly just because he believes the Big Ten should at least be guaranteed more? I mean, is it obviously you look at it and getting the 4 in there, but why do you think he's so dead set against 5+11? Because that seems like that's the easiest format to kind of get behind.
I'd say it's the easiest, but then look at last year. You had conference champions, and then you filled in with people. Each and every one of those teams that had the bye lost.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the most deserving people. Like maybe you get rid of if you do 5+11, don't have conference champions be the automatic 1 through 5, and then you're just debating on which one of those 5 is actually 1 through 5. I mean, there were some teams that didn't make the conference championship games that should have been above the guaranteed spots, So really, it's more along the lines of, could you do a 5+11? Absolutely. Are you going to have anybody agree on how that shakes out? No, because I'm pretty sure each conference that has their one of those 5 will say, well, it needs to be a top 5. Well, I mean, last year Boise State didn't need to be anywhere near the top, and it just kind of showed you there was some flaws in the new format I like it. I like the 5+11. Do the SEC and Big Ten probably routinely have 4 to 5 teams a year that could probably do well in the college football playoff? Yes. But I mean, if you really want it to be something along the lines of college basketball, maybe have some diversity there and get some Cinderella teams. I mean, even if you don't have it, I think you're going to have, in rankings wise, Big Ten and SEC teams near the top. So you can't have. I just don't see how 2 conferences can make up, half of the field automatically, when honestly it'd probably happen anyway.
Right, and that's kind of where I was wondering too. I'm like, well, if they just kind of take care of their own business, I feel like they would probably, a lot of them would still be in that +11 department at that
Yep.
point.
Or you have Alabama, who, loses to sub 500 teams and a team at 500 at home and expects to make it somehow. But we're in the SEC and our schedule's really tough. Well, the teams you lost to weren't tough at all. And so, yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, have it be the 5+11, and it should work itself out.
RJ, obviously there's a lot. We've talked about the schedule that Wisconsin has, and there's not a ton of expectations for the Badgers. But I've seen a couple people mention, well, the Badgers got a lot of interesting or intriguing youth players coming in this year, and maybe they could surprise some people and such. I guess not to be maybe a negative person or that, but I mean, how much can we, in the state of college sports now, how much can we count on, program building and, in a couple of years, these youngsters are going to be really, really, really good. I mean, can we really hang our hat on that anymore, considering the transfer portal and all that stuff, RJ?
No. And, I saw somebody post video of the Minnesota-Wisconsin game when game day was at Minnesota, and we went in there and just trounced them when they were number 8 in the country and we were number 12. That was a team that was led by Wisconsin developmental kids. They didn't have, well, I mean, you had your one-time transfer rule still, but that was before the portal, before NIL, and kids stayed at Wisconsin, developed, and you had a dynamic offense that really wasn't as dynamic as people thought. It was just a simple playbook that had multiple fronts, multiple motions, threw defenses off, and really that's all you need. I mean, look at the NFL. There's not much of the hoop-de-doo plays and all that kind of stuff that jumps off the page and you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. It's the athletes they have in there that make the playbook look better than it actually is. So Wisconsin was running an NFL-style playbook, and it's one of those that era is now gone until some kind of reform where you don't have a guy like AJ Storr. Granted, it's a different sport, but I mean, 8 schools in 8 years because he transferred 4 times in high school and has now transferred 4 times in basketball. So it's or in college. It's just not going to happen. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. And there still needs to be a lot of regulation in NIL before we see any kind of resemblance to people staying, whether it's signing 2-year contracts, 3-year contracts, because 3 years gets you to the time you'd be eligible to go to the NFL. And if there's a redshirt year in there plus 2 years, you're a redshirt sophomore, and you feel you can go somewhere else to get better, go do that. But yeah, so I think I'd like to see some draft eligible contracts. So like spend your time at a school long enough to like see some kind of development. And I mean, granted, you'll have guys who you can tell they're really good,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they just want to go make a name for themselves at a bigger school. That's probably going to happen. I mean, it does happen. We're seeing it happen. But I think once there's some kind of regulation, and I mean, considering all the talk right now is about contracts, I think eventually we'll get there. It'll just depend on like how we get there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, one more question for you, quick, RJ, and it's going to actually go to basketball because I know the men's basketball team had some off-season practices and for the media to observe and such. And one thing I thought was an interesting quote from Greg Gard, and he was talking about John Blackwell and his new guard, Nick Boyd. And the quote was, "I've intentionally kept them on opposite teams just because they're both alphas. To have them spar off or face off against each other is good. I think it's good for both of them to keep pushing each other's bar a little higher." Not to get too excited because we got a long ways to go to Badger basketball season here, RJ. But I mean, Nick Boyd is a transfer. We haven't seen him suited up for the Badgers yet, but it sure seems like there's a lot of expectations already and a lot of enthusiasm for Nick Boyd coming into this program.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you already have people talking about how you have one of the better backcourts in the Big Ten and possibly the country with those two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're just doing off-season practices right now, I mean, they have, like you said, they'll have plenty of time once actual practice starts to be on the same side of the ball. Why not put two guys who can absolutely push each other to whatever point they get to? And I'm not saying like fist fights or anything like that, but where you can piss somebody off on the other side of the ball because they're both that kind of talent. Iron sharpens iron, and I think as a head coach, I'd much rather have those two go against each other to improve themselves. I mean, I'm not saying other guys on the team are bad, but like if you could have two top guards going up against each other, covering each other and making each other better, where one just got back from the draft combine, didn't really like what he heard, but got enough feedback to know what he's got to work on, to the point where now your coaching staff says, oh yeah, he's going to make that step this year, and we already saw him take a little bit of a step. So that's fun to see. And then, I mean, at every stop he's made, Nick has been a guy that people are just like, yeah, he's a top guard in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two guys, both who can probably handle the ball, both who can play off the ball, and it's interesting to see that dynamic once they actually hit the court for games.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst. Dude, good stuff as always. Appreciate it. And now that the football team's in Platteville and such, I'm sure we'll get a lot more football talk coming up here leading up to the start of the season. So happy football season, buddy.
Yeah, reported yesterday, day one today.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can't wait to see what we get out of these 2 weeks in Platteville.
Exactly. Well, you have a good rest of the week, buddy, and we'll catch up soon, okay?
Sounds good. We will talk to you later.
You got it. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. We're going to take a quick break and we got to wrap up things. We got some picks. We'll pick that game 2 Brewers, Cubs, and a whole lot more after these few words. Don't forget to get on the bus with us as we head to Milwaukee. The Brew Crew will be taking on the Giants August 24th, Sunday, August 24th. Just head to wiscotrips.com or our website, sportstalk1051.com. There's a link up there for you as well. But head to wiscotrips.com for all the information you need, plus to reserve your ticket. Just make sure you click on the Eau Claire option there. But what's all included? You get your game tickets, you get your round trip motor coach transportation, and a tailgate party from Premier Catering. So not only is this a big game against the Giants late August that could have some playoff implications, but it is also the Euchre celebration game. So if you want to partake in those events, you can ride the bus with Wisco Trips. It's wiscotrips.com. Or again, you can go to sportstalk1051.com and click on the logo that's on the right-hand side of the webpage. So, all right, let's start to wrap up things this morning. Got some games to pick here. Baseball games to pick here. So, let's start off with, we got a full slate here. Toronto, Baltimore. We've got a double header here. I'm going to go Toronto with both wins. Let's do Arizona and Detroit. Detroit gets the win. Colorado, Cleveland, Cleveland. Tampa Bay, New York. I was reading a little bit earlier this morning too, getting ready and looking at trade deadline stuff. And now with the Aaron Judge injury, it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive the Yankees are going to be by the trade deadline. Obviously, they got McMahon from Colorado and such, but how, what else will they do, if they will do anything else before the trade deadline, factoring in the Aaron Judge injury. So, with that being said, Max Fried's on the mound. I'm going to go with the Yankees today. Let's do Dodgers and Reds. I'll go with the Dodgers. Atlanta and Kansas City. I'll go with Kansas City. Let's do Boston at Minnesota. I'm going to go with the Red Sox. Phillies taking on the White Sox. I'll go with the Phillies. Marlins at the Cardinals. Cardinals are going to throw out Sonny Gray. I'll go with the Cardinals. Washington at Houston. I'll go Houston. Jason Alexander's on the mound, though, for the Astros. Rangers taking on the Angels. I'll go with Texas. Mets, Padres. Padres got the 7-6 victory last night. I'll go with the Mets tonight. Pittsburgh taking on the Giants of San Francisco. I'll go with San Francisco. Seattle taking on the Athletics. I will go with Seattle. And then we've got Cubs, Brewers, Game 2. Colin Ray, Quinn Priester. I'm going Brewers. I think this is a heck of an opportunity here for the Brewers. I think the pitching matchup favors them. No doubt about it. Colin Ray, I think, is going to be a little bit more amped up, maybe a little bit more focused, going up against his former ball club, his former team in their town. He's going to want this win bad. I think this pitching matchup favors the Brewers. So I'm going to go with the Brewers to win and at least secure a series win before tomorrow's epic pitching matchup between Peralta and Imanaga. So that should be, at least on paper, a really good one. Imanaga is going to want to have a nice comeback from his awful game against the Royals. Peralta, a little iffy in his last outing there too. So he's probably looking to have a nice little comeback one as well. But makes me nervous with the pitch counts with Freddie Peralta. How long is he going to be able to last in that game? So, but I'm going to go Brewers. I think it's a big opportunity tonight for the Brewers. So let's get her done. Let's get that W. All right. John, a little bit earlier, what grinds my gears? It is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. What grinds my gears? A lot of you with Grind My Gears today, by the way. Appreciate that. Is that we Brewers fans get all excited for the possibility of a trade for a big name player, only to be disappointed after the deadline. Maybe this is the year. Here's the thing, though. Maybe it's just me, but I'm maybe not that excited because maybe I don't expect it. And I think part of it is I don't know who it would be and what position it would be. I've got a name that I would be pretty pumped about, but I'm going to save it for the podcast that we're recording right after this. I'm going to save it. I got a name in mind for the Brewers that if it were to happen, I'd be pretty stoked. And I'll just give a hint. His name was mentioned in one of the many, many, many pieces out there as a potential fit for the Brewers. I don't know if he'll actually get traded or not. But as one of the insiders said, his name keeps popping up, so maybe there is that possibility. But this name, this one, again, depending on what they would have to give up, I'd be like, all right, I kind of like that one. But I'm going to save it for the podcast. We're literally going to record it right after this program. So what do? Make sure you're following the Man Cave Podcast, wherever you get your podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Spotify, Apple, also up on YouTube. So if you got a few seconds, if you could just click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, just look me up on there. Again, I don't like using the word subscribe because I think it makes it sound like you have to pay for something. You don't. It's for free. So, but also, if you could, like on Apple and Spotify, even if you got the app but you don't listen hardly on there, look us up on the Man Cave Podcast. Give us 5 stars and a positive review so others can find the podcast. But that's coming up here and later on this morning. So make sure to check it out. What else? Okay, we only got a couple minutes left here. So again, Brewers, Cubs tonight. First pitch, 6:40. Coverage will begin about 35 minutes prior. You can tune in on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM for that game. And then tomorrow, we got a 1:10 first pitch for that getaway day for both these ball clubs. Because the Brewers are going to have the off day on Thursday before they hit the road to take on Washington. Remember, Thursday, that's trade deadline day. That's the trade deadline day. So maybe Brewers will decide after this series how aggressive to be. Maybe if they win this series, they'll be like, oh, yeah, all chips in, baby. Let's push all the chips in, man. Let's do it up. Do it up. What else do we got on the docket here? Packers training camp continuing to roll along here. Looking at their schedule, they've got a practice today, 10:30 a.m., off day tomorrow, Thursday practice, Friday practice, then a reminder, family night is Saturday night, and then the first preseason game already coming at you next Saturday. I'm actually going to that one. So, of course, why wouldn't I be going to a preseason game, right? But, family night's coming up this weekend. So, tomorrow, think about whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. All right? Think about that for a little bit and hit me up with your picks. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? I want to hear yours. Okay? Not just mine, but I want to hear yours. You can start to text them now if you want, and I'll hold on to them for tomorrow. But think about that for a little bit. Maybe it'll depend on the outcome of the game tonight between the Brewers and the Cubs. So coming up tomorrow too, we'll see if we get any more trades done to talk about. Maybe some more rumors floating out there. I don't know. I just feel like at times the Brewers are kind of a little bit like the Packers, where maybe their name gets floated out there just to kind of draw up the price tag for some other players and such. I feel like that's kind of where the Brewers are at some of these points. Not to say they don't make moves and such, but kind of like the Packers, you throw their name in there, and it's like, oh, okay, that means they're actually serious about this guy. All right, we're gonna have to pay more for him. I feel like the Brewers are a little bit like the Packers in that regard. So I don't know. Again, what do we define as a big move or a spicy move? Yesterday's move against Jansen, no, I wouldn't call it a spicy move. I'd call it like eyebrow raising a little bit. It's like, oh, okay. But as our good friend Brandon said, if that's the only move, it's disappointing. If it's a move, cool. But if it's the only move, disappointing. It's kind of where I'm at. But we'll see. We'll see how it all transpires in the next, less than 72 hours. But yeah, a couple days here. I'm not going to do math here with just a few seconds left. DP Danitz are up next. I hope you have yourself a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Again, don't forget, check out the podcast. New episode dropping, new content dropping here within the hour. So look up the Man Cave Podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Have a fantastic Tuesday. Same place, same time, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Chat with you then.